investors. As African swine fever continues to spread, China expects a 40% increase in pork imports. Joining us now with an update is American Farm Bureau economist Michael Nepveux. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Now, we keep hearing more and more about African swine fever in China and the potential threat for spreading. Can you give us an update on how bad the situation is right now?
Well, ASF in China just keeps getting worse at this point. And it's not even a China problem anymore. It's already spread to Vietnam, and it's probably not going to stop there. Now, ASF is in pretty much every province in China, and it's wreaking havoc in the world's largest hog herd. In March, the Ministry of Ag in China reported that about 19% decline in the overall pig herd from a year earlier. Now, to put this in some perspective, since China is the world's largest producer, 20% decline in Chinese pork production would be about 11 million metric tons. Total global pork trade for the entire world last year was only 8.4 million metric tons. So there definitely is a big protein hole to fill.
So are we seeing China buying more pork, even from the U.S. at this time?
We are, actually. So in the past month, we've seen several spikes in U.S. export sales to China, and that's even with the 62% tariff that U.S. producers are facing. Now, other countries are also going to be sending more pork to China. EU is a dominant supplier there, but you also got Brazil, Canada, Mexico, U.S., some of the other high-volume suppliers. Now, I also want to mention that China isn't currently facing a pork shortage because they have a lot of pork on hand. A lot of their producers rushed to liquidate herds whenever ASF was breaking out. So at this point, you may not expect to see a huge increase in trade until later this year or maybe even 2020.
Okay, so right now they're okay, but a lot of analysts have come out and speculated that they are going to see a decline, and that could actually impact soybean exports. Talk a little bit about that.
So this is almost a double whammy for soybean producers in the U.S. So if a deal with China were to reach and we were suddenly able to send more soybeans to China, a lot of the pigs that we'd be feeding are dead. But you also got to keep in mind with just the general structure of China is a lot of those pigs who are dying may not be currently eating soybeans because they are those small backyard smallholder farms. So there is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and that maybe some of these larger commercials will be able to weather ASF and still be there to purchase soybeans after the fact.
That's interesting insight. The first we've heard of it. Thank you so much. AFBF economist Michael Nepveux, really appreciate you joining us from your Washington